Aloha and welcome to the Woman Unleashed online retreat. My name is Amber Quile Milani Benici, and here we are. And today we are talking about sisterhood, about connection, and about, just really that place of, sometimes unleashing can feel like a really solitary process, that place of, just tapping into what's important. And in that time, it's so important then to connect with others that are moving through the same process. And we get to do that today with Flora. Hey, Flora.
Hey, Amber. Happy to be here.
Hello, beautifuls. So let's just first get settled. So grab your Women Unleashed journal if you have that, any sort of coloring goodies for note-taking, beverage of choice, and we can dive in. Let's get present with our breaths first, okay? So get comfy. And I'm inviting you to first just notice if there's anything that's been going on before, any energy that's just holding you back. Let's inhale in, exhale and release. Noticing now if there's anything to come that's on your mind, pulling you ahead of this moment. Come back here, inhale in, exhale and release. And our third and final breath, smelling this moment together, inhaling in and exhale and release. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I can introduce to you to our guide today. She gave away Flora, but Flora Bowley. She is a painter. She's a pioneer. She's a guide. She's an author of 2 books, including Brave Intuitive Painting and Creative Revolution. I love that title. She has over 20 years experience, doing professional painting, as well as experience with her background as yoga instructor, as healer, and she's kind of blended all these magical elements into her practice of this really holistic practice into creating like this intuitive art and creating this intuitive art world through her live retreats, through online experiences with people. But today, and she has a dog. Sorry, I'm just totally going random like on her. She also has a dog that's white and super cute. He's in, I see him in an Instagram shot. She's got her husband. She's got her beautiful studio that she just created in Portland, Oregon. But today, she's here with us. So Flora, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and including my dog in my intro.
You know what? He just came in. The dog downloaded, and it was like the dog had to be shared.
Yes.
So Flora, she's been on with us before. We've done so many fun things. We did like mandalas one time, but I remember that one because we were just kind of yammering away, doing mandalas. We've done different creative painting practices, but I was super excited because Flora and I were talking, and we're like, what would be juicy this time? And Flora, you're walking with your dog actually, and when we had our call, and you said, what'd be so cool is to like start to connect with people about how to find other connections, right? That sometimes this creative life or a life as women sometimes can feel a bit isolated and lonely. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about how cool it'd be to come up with something that's like how to get other people connected, how to find connections, create and gather circles. And so that kind of that's where we started, huh?
Yeah, I do hold a lot of gatherings myself, and there's always this kind of feeling at the end after we've had this really intimate, experience together where people are just like, oh, I wish I had this at home. And, I've had many people bring that to me over the years of, they're asking me like how to create or how to find their creative community. And so what I often say is like, sometimes you need to be the creator of it. There's probably not someone going to come knocking on your door to like be in my creative community. And so I just would love to share some insights and hear yours as well. We've both been in the world of hosting community gatherings and creative soulful events for some years. And so there's definitely some things I've learned over the years. And I just would love to inspire more people to, create their own thing. And that could be as simple as inviting your 2 best friends over to your kitchen table and doing some art project there, or it could be, you know, much more extravagant. So we can kind of talk about just all the different ways to do that, and to remember that you don't have to be an expert. You just have to, you have to have the desire to bring people together. And I think if you have that, then there's so many different ways to do it, including having other people come and share their expertise. It's like, just to take that pressure off you having to be like this all-knowing teacher who's now ready to like share. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, before I ever started teaching painting workshops, I used to have what I called art nights at my studio. And this was like way back in the day. And I would just I just had this great space. It was like in a warehouse, you know, and so I told my friends, if you guys want to come and just have art nights, I wasn't teaching them anything. I was just opening up my space. And sometimes we'd have people playing live music, and, you know, people would be doing all sorts of different projects. And it was just that idea of, like you said, like coming out of isolation with our creative practices and just being in the same room with each other. And I just loved it. It was like so many great conversations would happen, and connections and collaborations, just by spending that time together. So I feel like that was like kind of the roots of where I am now. So yeah, happy to share this.
I love that you shared that. I think it's, there's this myth. So I think part of what would be so cool is just to debunk the myths, right?
Yes.
It's like, in order to hold together, you know, some sort of session, you have to be like, have all your stuff together. Like my first one was like, you know, just a few people around my dining room table, and like, I don't know, I had like glitter and paint. I was like, let's try this. I mean, I didn't even know what the heck I was doing, but I just wanted to do something, you know, and it was like, that was part of it. It's like not needing to have it all together, or have it look a certain way, or be someplace, or you don't have to rent some giant place. It's like, we had wine and we had chocolate, which like covers like a lot of important ingredients to a successful night. You know, and I figured at least if I had that like even if everything else went wonky, we'd be cool.
Yeah. I feel like so many people, you know, when you think of like, wouldn't you love to receive an invitation to a night like this, or a day like, you know, it doesn't have to happen at night. Like, wouldn't you love? And so I think, yeah, it's like, even if people aren't able to come, or it ends up just being whatever it ends up being, I think putting that out and just inviting people into that kind of space that is really just a meaningful way to gather, which I think more and more people are craving. You know, the more that we're on our technology things all the time, and kind of like that in-person connection can just feel so, you know, like rare these days, that I think instead of just like going out to a bar or whatever you would do with your people, you know, coming together with an actual intention of whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be making artwork. That's the other thing that I think I just want to like, you know, say is like, maybe you want to do something that's about sharing. I was in this circle back in the day where we all studied, this group of ladies, we all studied a goddess every month. And then we would come together and we would share what we learned about that goddess. And like, we had like a big altar, and we would sit in a circle, and it was just so sweet and really educational. And so you can really create this kind of thing out of any idea that you may have. So I have some concepts to share just around creating the space, holding the space. And then because I am an artist person, I have some like simple creative exercises that I'm happy to share in case people are kind of needing some inspiration there. So
I love it. So I think that we should just dive in for it. Like, let's just dive in and be like, okay, what are the ingredients to creating like some sort of yummy container, and like kind of looking at all over the spectrum. And then let's just do our best, like as we're going, just to kind of like those things that people might think are hard in their heads, to like be like, you could just do this, right? To be like,
yeah,
make it super simple. Yeah.
All about that. Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is to make your invitation list. That's always fun, right? Like, think about who might want to come, and like just start to maybe write some names down. And I think when we can kind of visualize who's going to be there, then we can start to see it happen. And then think about like, how do you want to invite them? Maybe it's snail mail, like that's so fun, right? Or maybe it's just an email, or make an evite, or you just invite everybody in person, whatever it is. So you figure out how many people, you consider your space and where it's going to happen. and be creative with that too. I mean, how I've lived in so many situations where I didn't have an art space, and I've created amazing studios like in garages or in basements, or I used to paint in this woman's backyard shack that I rented for like $50. You know, it's like, get creative with that. Or maybe it's your friend that has the space and you have the idea for the event and the organization. So it could be a real collaborative thing. So creating that kind of those basics. And then I'm always really big on, you know, how someone feels the minute they walk in the door. Like for me, there's like, in my workshops, a lot of people come from far away. And so much effort has gone into just getting them there, right? And I really honor that. And so I want them, the minute they walk in the door, I want them to feel welcome and included and like they're in the right space. And so at my studio, I'll do like, you know, flower petal pathway, like leading up to the door. You know, if there's flowers blooming in my neighborhood, I'll just steal some and do that, or get some at the grocery store. And then I have a little copal incense burning outside the door. So like as soon as they come in, they're kind of coming into this magical other place. I have a chalkboard out front that I put different quotes on, which I like to change. You know, I do my workshops over a number of days, so those will kind of change throughout the time. Let's see, I have an altar. I actually have a couple altars, but I have one right when you walk in the door. And, you know, altar doesn't have to be anything fancy either. That word can be daunting, I'm sure, to some people, but it could just be a couple of your stones that you've gathered on a beach, and a candle, and maybe like a little piece of fabric that it's all sitting on. Like it can be as simple as that. It could be, you know, maybe there's some words on there, or you know, a tarot deck or a different kind of deck. Really anything, but just kind of a, you know, a sacred, something that says to people, you're in the sacred space. Candles are super simple and great for that. And then, you know, the simple things like having tea ready or wine or whatever it is, but having something like a beverage I think is really nice, or snacks or whatever it is. We go like all out on our food because I just feel like being nourished on that level makes the whole experience so much better. So I hire my friend Shannon, who does these platters of food, and the platters themselves are art. You know, she like arranges the vegetables and the fruit and the things like in these like mandalas. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, right? And then I always start my workshops with some kind of movement so that people aren't going just like straight into a chair, because I feel like generally speaking, they have a lot of energy, a lot of nervousness, who knows what's going on when they're just in a group of new people. And so I usually just get them all standing and do some really simple movement. And if you're not a movement teacher or you don't have a lot of experience there, one really great trick that you can do is to ask each person to share one of their favorite movements. And it can be, and you can give them the examples, like it could just be like, I love to stretch my arms up in the sky and like do a forward bend, or I love to like roll my neck a little bit, or maybe it's an energy, you know, sometimes I get people doing like sharing their like Tai Chi moves or a breathing thing, you know, and everyone, I've done this so many times, everybody always has something that they're like, oh, I love this thing. And usually there's like a tiny little story that goes with it. Like, this is what I do when I get up in the morning, or da, da, da. And so it's a great way to get people involved and moving and in their bodies. And you don't even have to you don't have to know anything. You just need to invite them to share. So that's a really good one. I usually don't get people dancing like right away, because that can be really, that's usually like, as you know, like we'll take a dance break like once we're kind of in the groove. But I love dance breaks, especially if people are getting to a place where they're just kind of, you know, feeling there's a tension in the room, or everyone's just kind of needs to shake it out, like just to kind of be aware of those energetics. And, you know, you might have a playlist that's like, okay, I'm going to play this song if we need to just kind of boogie around. And people always love that, you know, especially if they don't normally do that. I think it's great for people to realize how quickly energy can shift when we do move our bodies. It's like, that was one song. I always say that, like if it really shifted, that was one song, people, 5 minutes or 3 minutes. And look, you know, it's like, don't forget that's a tool you can take home with you. And then coming together in circle, I usually do chairs. If your people are able to sit on the ground, you can do that. I usually just try to make everybody really comfortable. So we have chairs and, you know, introductions. I think one thing to be really conscious of is that I think it's important for introductions to happen, but people can get a little long-winded when you just kind of open it up with no container. And so you as the facilitator are responsible for that. And so I've learned this one the hard way. I'm sure you have too.
I don't know what you're talking about, Flora.
You're like, oh my God, it's been like 5 minutes. This person's still talking. And it's like, people just love to be heard. It's, you know, it's like, no offense to them. It's like, they just want to be heard, and suddenly they have a group of people listening to them. And so it's like, but so to know that going in, so I often do like, you know, share your name, share where you're from, and share something you're growing through right now instead of going through. Something you're growing through, or a superpower, or something that's feeling really inspiring to you, like some nugget. And then really kind of speak to the brevity that you're looking for. Like actually just say, you know, we're looking for, you know, just a nugget, maybe less than 30 seconds. And I'll just say that, because otherwise you never know. So you could have a talking stick or feather object, or just go around, whatever, so that people kind of get to know each other. And there's tons of other ways to get people connected and, you know, sharing with each other one-on-one. I mean, it just depends how deep you want to go into that stuff. I do, you know, a fair amount of that if I'm going into like a 5-day workshop. But if it's like we're coming together for an art night, maybe it's just super quick, and then all of a sudden, you know, the art supplies come out and all of that. Let's see here. Yeah, music, I think for me, music's huge. I love music. I love creating to music. So it's like amazing how a silent room feels so different than a room that has a certain kind of moving song going on. So not to say silent can't happen too, because that's a whole nother kind of beauty, right? Just dropping into that. But to just know that you have control over those types of things. And then I have like so many different playlists created. I've got ones that are like for meditating kind of moments, and for dance party moments, and just singer-songwriter kind of you know, so just like have that sort of ready. Spotify is great for that. I mean, oh my God, you could just follow me on Spotify.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your Spotify playlist? We'll just go to Flora Bowley.
I mean, yeah, go to Flora Bowley, and like there's so many playlists on there. It's like one of my little addictions just to create those. So another thing to think about is like starting off with like a reading. You know, if you don't feel like you're gonna have the right words necessarily, you can always read. You know, I love to read poems. I love to read blessings or invocations, or just pieces of books that I've underlined. So that's a really sweet thing to, you know, add into the mix. People always love that. I even have some podcasts that I'll play like at the end of the day. There's a really beautiful one. Do you know Live Awake? Have you?
No.
Oh, okay. If people get nothing else from this little chat, check out this woman's podcast called Live Awake. Her name is Sarah Blondin, and she just has these like 9-minute, it's just her voice and a little bit of music, and they are so beautiful. Oh my God. And there's like on all different themes. And so sometimes at the end of a long day, I'll get everybody to just like throw a yoga mat on the ground and lay down, and I'll just put the track on, and it's just this like beautiful end. So, you know, thinking about things like that. I'm just going on and on. Do you want me to do you want to say anything?
No, it's so funny. I know. Here, let me talk a little bit too. I love this list, right? So it's almost like this is like the checklist to like making sure that you have everything right. So one thing I love when you were talking about people in space, you talked about, you know, inviting, you know, making your invitation list. Like, don't be afraid to just invite whoever you want to invite. Do you know what I mean? As far as like, just people that are like going to make you feel good. Like, it's okay to like cut out those other people, right? Even if, you know, just, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, just have the people that are going to be nice to you and that you're going to feel super comfortable with. It's okay not to invite those other people, especially when you're first starting off. Like, when I did my first circle, I'm like, I only want people that are going to love me and everything I have to say, even if it sucks. Like, that's who I want to come to my first circle. It's like, I wanted that nurturing place.
Yes.
So that was like one thing. Yeah.
That's great. Totally. And I think it's really fun. I mean, especially, I'm kind of speaking to this as if it's kind of like a free thing, you know, like you're just bringing people together and maybe they're throwing some money in the jar for the wine or whatever. But like, you know, this is different. Although, you know, these same concepts hold true for more of like a paid retreat. But, you know, what I'm really trying to stoke the fire around is like just getting together with your people, you know, like this is like no one's paying anybody unless there's like I said, like expenses to cover. But yeah, just having like, that's what my art nights back in the day, like it wasn't like they were paying to be there. So yeah, it was like my people that I loved. And I personally love when my people meet each other, like when I don't know, I'm a connector like that. And so when I have a friend and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm always that person who's like, you have to meet so-and-so, because I know that there's going to be a connection there because I know both of them. And so this is like curation of people that you get to bring together, you know?
Oh my gosh. I love that, Flora. Curation of people.
It sounds a little weird, but you know.
I do know. So I'm just laughing at that because I'm like, I'm writing that down. Curation of people. Yeah, that was, so, you know, before, we're going to go into, I think, more of like things that you have, but I was just thinking like, part of it is like this thing of like, what would stop people from doing these things, right? I'm just thinking like, oh, I don't have the right space, right? That, like, I remember one woman that I worked with, she wanted to do workshops, but she kept waiting to like get her bathroom remodeled. I'm like, why? Like, who cares? Like,
yeah.
Like put a painting over the hole in the wall and just invite the people, let them come. So it's like, there's something about the, like, it can be easy.
Yeah, it could happen in a park, you know, like it could, yeah, that would be beautiful. You know, maybe you go to a park and you're all just doing collaborative drawing or whatever, you know, it can be super simple. Yeah. Hanging out with intention. That's really all it is.
I think that's the piece here. That's the ingredient is the intention piece, right? So it's not just for fun, though there's like that, the intention of connection or of belonging or of like curating of people, right? It's like this piece here. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, coming up with like theme, you know, I just taught a 5-day workshop just ended yesterday and it was a collaborative teaching with my friend Orly Abanieri. And our theme was change. We were exploring change and transformation and how things change and how we change and how our art changes. And so that was like this piece that we always kept going back to, even though we did lots and lots of different exercises, there was like that like thread. And so I think that can be a really helpful thing, is to have a thread of something, you know, and your thread could be fun, you know, like I just want to play. I want to get playful with people. I want to, you know, not worry so much and just have fun. Yeah. I was just,
you know, one thing when you were just talking about theme with your, you know, friend, you came with your theme. Like, I just think about the same thing. Like if you wanted to create something and do like an art, like just, if you have like one buddy that you're like, okay, let's do this together, like coming up with a theme or an intention together. Like I always like to, even before, like, you know, when you and I, Flora, when we're setting our, you know, what we're going to talk about, like we're creating an intention of like, okay, we want to create more connection. We want women to feel they can create their own circles, right? So that's like your and my intention, right? So it's the same thing. It's like we're setting the container. The theme and intention is really just, we're setting a container, which makes it easier to then hold space, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really, I meant to add that too in the beginning around the intro circle. That can be a really nice thing to share, is just share an intention, which just could be a word or a couple words, but bringing it, you know, sometimes I'll talk just about, you know, why would we set an intention? It's just it's like to bring it out into this like crystalline like thing. Like I'm telling everybody in the room that my intention is to be relaxed tonight. Whatever. You know?
We're gonna call you on it if you get all crazy on us and get
like you just put it into space. Yeah. I think it's really good. And then it's always something that, you know, I can, you know, even sometimes in the, like I love to have closure at the end of a day as well, whatever that looks like. And sometimes all that looks like is we're all going to close our eyes again, bring our hands to our heart and remember what our intention was. You know, that's great. Or just to remember that we're right where we're supposed to be, and that and however the experience was is how it was supposed to be. You know, sometimes I'll just talk about that at the end of the day, you know, especially if people are kind of all over the map in terms of how they're feeling. Yeah, or just sharing one word. I always think of that as like taking the temperature of the group, is like everyone just shares one word and you can kind of get a feel for where people are at, or that's like the way to end. So yeah. Yeah.
So I just love that piece about the closing. I think that's something that's important. Like there's that feeling, then energy, right? It's like you're creating this beautiful opening, right? But then to also have the thing that closes, so that when they leave, their energy then can move on to what's next, or they're not still wrapped up in like whatever. I mean, I think about just even art making. Sometimes it just brings up shit, right?
Oh,
It's like, my painting, you know, whatever that is, you know, and to be able to like move into like that next thing, or what did they learn from it, or what is the lesson, or that piece, in order to make space for what's the next thing to come to.
Yeah, and that just reminds me to mention, like, have, you know, as if you are the space holder and you are the one that's kind of saying, hey, this is what we're going to do together, to be really clear about why, you know, why you're doing it. So this exercise, we're just going to learn to let go. This isn't about finishing a piece of artwork. This is about getting in our bodies maybe, or listening to our intuition more deeply, or freeing up, you know, by using our non-dominant hand, or whatever it is. You know, it's like even my workshops where we are painting like big paintings, I like from the beginning, I'm really clear that the goal is not to finish them. They might get finished along the way, but I think when people really can feel a lot of pressure when it comes to making artwork. They want it to look good and they want it to be done when they leave. And it's just like, I'm constantly talking about how what we're really doing is just practicing ways of being. You know, we're practicing being more free. We're practicing being brave. We're practicing not giving up when things are hard. Like, you know, it's all just practicing, and we get this nice little square canvas to like practice on, you know, and, you know, nobody, it's just a piece of canvas and paint. It's not so meaningful unless you make it meaningful, right? But just to remind people, because they will, if you're doing art-based exercises, it's like people want it to look good. We have so much wounding in our culture around being artists, not being artists, feeling like, oh, I could never do that. I mean, I feel art's always been my easy thing, so I never kind of struggled with that. However, when I think of like singing, I'm just like, oh my God, you know, like so much shit comes up, even though it's like, who cares? You're just opening your mouth and making sounds. Like, who really cares? But it's like loaded. And so just to remember that like that kind of stuff might be going on in the room, and to speak to it a little bit, and just, you know, I'm always talking about just being gentle with yourself. And the fact that you're, like I always say, like the fact that you're in the room right now painting is amazing. Like, how cool is that? Like, you're painting a canvas in a room. Like, this is so great. You know, just to get people reminded of like they're really great just for being there and trying something new, you know. And oh my God, I'm always like saying like, imagine picking up a violin for the first time, like how bad you would sound, you know. Like, it's not really fair for us if we're new to making art to like put these expectations on ourselves. Like, suddenly we're just going to be able to play these songs because, oh, well, I should be able, you know, whatever stories we have. So just being really like real with people around, you know, we're just here to fill in the blank, whatever your intention is. And I would imagine your intention is not to like make amazing paintings, you know. It's just like, no, you know, it's to be together, really, like we've been talking about. It's to be together, it's to share, to talk, to connect, and then to keep our hands moving in a way that makes us feel more alive. I mean, I keep going back to that as kind of like why we make art, or why I make art, is like, it all kind of comes back to just feeling more alive and feeling more connected to myself and more expressed. So yeah.
I love that. So for women who were like, all right, Flora, all right, Amber, I'm going to call the circle. I'm going to gather the people. We start off making our list, choosing our space, and then choosing what we're going to do, right? Or whatever thing that you want that to be, whether it's movement or art or sharing or, you know, whatever that place is. And like, that's it, right? That's the stepping in, right? There are all these other things, but really it just boils down to, like, many times when I go to create a workshop, it's like setting the date on the calendar and location and telling people, and then boom, it's like non-reversible at that point. Cause I've told people it's happening, that, you know, like, so it's like, I almost sometimes feel like just getting to that point, then there's like momentum that can carry much of the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of the great things is, like, suddenly you're accountable, like, to these people. Right. And so it's a lot different than if you're just, you know, saying, oh, I'm going to make art on these nights. I'm going to start to do this. You know, it's like, well, no one's watching you, or no, you know, but when you say, you know what, every month I'm going to bring people together, or maybe it's just one person, right? Like, whatever, someone beyond just yourself. We're going to gather and we're going to do these practices. And then you say it, you commit, and all of a sudden you are accountable. And I think that is just such a powerful thing. I mean, everybody knows that, right? With anything in life, if we're trying to get our exercising in or whatever it is, it's like, be accountable in some way. I love it. My gym, like, charges me $20 if I, like, sign up for a class and I don't go. And I just love them for that. I'm like, thank you. I am not going to not go.
Yes, you're gonna work out, Flora.
Yes. Yeah. So
I love that piece about just the putting yourself out there and having other people, like, there's something about the relying too, right? And that's part of the belonging connection, is like that feeling of I'm gonna be there for someone, or I know someone's gonna be there for me. That's part of, like, that piece that I'm missing, right? Or that I'm wanting to create when I create community, is like that. That's part of it. Yeah.
Another thing to think about is, you know, maybe you get a group of some friends together and you decide that you're going to take turns hosting. So it's not all on you. Maybe you just start it off, but that you kind of empower other people to create that. And I think especially for women, just stepping into our leadership and to using our voices is so powerful. And I mean, I know for myself, I was really, really shy as a kid. The idea of teaching anything or being in front of people just used to terrify me. Oh my gosh. And so I have come so far because I've done it over and over and over and over again. And I still get hella nervous before I hold a retreat. I mean, I'm like a basket case the night before still. But, you know, every time it's like, it just gets a little easier because you've done it and it's worked out, and then you do it again, it's worked out. So I just think, if for no other reason, you know, it's like, you know, just to put yourself in that place of stepping into your voice and into your vision and creating an experience. I think that can be just as important as what you end up doing or what happens there.
I love that you shared that you get nervous, Flora, because I get nervous too. And I think it's important for, like, ladies, for you to know that it's like, it's not that we do this and it's like, oh, it's just like no big deal. Like, I've told, like, I remember, like, being on online, like, groups, right? And people saying, like, you know, the phone comes around, I'm supposed to speak, and I'm getting so nervous that I, like, would hang up before it got to me, because I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna hang up, right? You know, like, you know. Or the first time when I did my, you know, I had a group of people over, I was so nervous. Like, I had, like, all the music and the food and everything, and, like, just being like, just, you know, all of that. And I still get nerves, right? And it's like, I'm like, all right, you know, you've done this before, but, like, just to, like, that, to let go of that myth that it's like, we don't feel nerves. It's like, no, of course we do.
Yeah, it really,
we do it anyways.
Yeah, we care, you know, like, I really care about people having an extraordinary experience. I really want that for them. I feel like if they're paying me all this money they're flying here. I had a woman from Taiwan and another one from Denmark that just came to my workshop. I'm like, oh my God, okay, like this has got to be good, you know? And so I put all this pressure, but really it's just me caring a lot. And so, you know, I'm working with appropriate amounts of caring. Sometimes I go too far, but but I really feel like so much of what makes a good space holder is just being as authentic as you can be. Like I've learned that over the years. Like if I end up crying in the opening circle, all that does is give the invitation that it's okay to have all the emotions come out, you know, and so I used to kind of feel like I had to really keep it together and like and now I just realize, you know what, I just need to be myself and be real and let that be enough. That's what people want the most anyway. They just want you to be real. So.
Well, I think, you know, about the conversation of connection, right? No one connects with someone who's perfect, right? I was just talking to my friend about this. I was like, I don't connect with people that have it up together all the time. I think like something's wrong with them, right? They've got it together all the time. Like they're not real. Something's wrong with them. Like, you know what I mean? So there's that piece. So I love that piece about being real and being yourself, and because that's what connects really.
And being vulnerable. I mean, I love that that's such a conversation that's up these days, you know, probably thanks to Brene Brown mostly, but you know, that like people love that, you know, and my best workshops are the ones where people really go there and they get vulnerable and they share and they cry and they just open it up, and everyone is so thankful because it makes them feel like they can do that too. And you know, it's like the more we widen the container, the more space there is for everybody to really show up that's another thing I say always in the beginning of my workshops is like, this is like full spectrum. Like art making stirs the pot and like things come up and you might get pissed. You might feel joy and ecstasy and all of that, but you also might feel really sad, you know, like all of it is fair game in the creative process. And just to create like a really safe container from the beginning where people feel like no matter what comes up, it's going to be okay. I think that's really important because, you know, really, you know, good art comes from all these same things: being vulnerable, being intuitive, being raw, being open. It's like, that's where good art comes from too. And so you have to be able to have that energy present in the room in all ways if you're going to get beyond just making like pretty paintings, you know? So
yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some art stuff they could do?
Let's do some art stuff you can do, ladies. Go for it.
Okay, so one thing that I think is super fun and always kind of a crowd pleaser is working collaboratively for many reasons. Probably the main one being it takes the pressure off you and your piece and having it have to be something special or beautiful or whatever. And so I do a lot of different collaborative exercises, but you know, you can do collaborative drawing where it could just be as simple as you start to doodle and then you pass your paper to the person on the right and then they continue doodling on that and then it just goes around the circle. So that's like so simple. With paint, it can just be adding marks and color, and it can, you know, who knows what's going to happen there, but you ring a little bell and then they pass it and then you get a new painting and then you add to that, right? You know, in my workshops, I have like big canvases and we do mark making, and I'll have them going around the room and I give them prompts so they really don't even have to think about what they're doing. I just say, okay, we're going to do stamping with the foam brush. So they're just stamping with the foam brush, right? Okay, now we're going to use our fingers. Now we're going to spray some water on there. Now we're, you know, whatever. So it's like you can be sort of as directive as you want, or you can just have it be a total free-for-all, which is also great. Another exercise that I love and can be really satisfying for people because it's kind of easy for it to look good is to work with mandalas. And we did mandalas in one of our sessions a couple years ago. Mandalas can also be done collaboratively. You know, you can have everyone just create a center point on a paper and then pass it, and then you do the next ring. And all you have to explain to people is that it's just kind of this symmetric thing that you're just letting grow. And so they can use words and shapes and images and designs. And, you know, it's a great one for really getting present and not planning, because you kind of get the mandala that gets passed to you, and then you respond to it, like in the moment, with whatever you want to add to it. We just did this one in this past workshop with white, like jelly pens on black paper with mandalas. So it's like just that creates kind of like something that looks cool. Another thing I'm a big fan of is painting with your eyes closed, you know, and with your fingers if you want to go there too. So it can also be done with dry materials like markers or pencils or whatever. I love just getting people to close their eyes, and then I have this sort of array of certain songs that are just real feeling songs. Like they're just like songs that you're just like, you have a response to. And then I get people to have like both hands going. So they're like, you know, not just with their dominant hand. And then they're just making marks. And I say the only thing you're doing here is feeling into the song and letting the song be your guide, and like letting go of anything about what it looks like, because you can't see it. So that's always a really fun one. Making affirmation cards, I think, could be just like an evening where maybe you do some collaborative painting or drawing where you're making some backgrounds, or maybe people are sharing different techniques and you're working on watercolor paper and you're just getting like marks and color and things. And then you just can cut them up and write words, you know, or write little phrases or whatever comes. Like that's a really fun one. And then people actually get to take that home and have a handmade deck, which could be something that, you know, every morning you draw a card or something like that. Yeah, I just mentioned, you know, sharing techniques. Like the whole evening could just be, okay, come with one technique that you want to share. And then it's not about you teaching it all. It's about everybody sharing something. That can be really great. Let's see. Collage is really satisfying for people. I mean, the images are already made, and so you don't have to have that pressure of like creating an image, you know. I think that can be a whole thing. So vision boards, you know, are so great. This is like old school stuff that is just still so wonderful, right? Watercolor I find to be a really satisfying medium, especially if you're just doing really simple things. Like I'll do this exercise that I just call the watercolor egg. And all it is that you start with like one color that you love, and then you add another color, like a ring, and then it kind of grows and morphs. And it's just about working with color in a way that feels kind of joyful and free. You know, it's not about like creating a landscape or whatever that could feel pressure. It's just like just playing with color. And then drawing exercises, I have a few that I think are really forgiving and really fun and all about just loosening up. One would be just to work with your non-dominant hand, you know, so maybe you put a vase of flowers on the table, and then you're all just taking your pen in the other hand and drawing the flowers. And that's just can be so goofy because you're like, I don't have any control. And that's the point, right? Blind contour drawing just means that you're not looking at your paper. You're just looking at the thing that you're drawing. And so continuous blind contour would be where you don't actually pick up the pen at all from your paper. So you're just kind of making this one line. I mean, you could have each other,
Oh my gosh, I've done that before where I had to put a paper on my head and like draw and couldn't pick the thing up, and I tried to make like a whatever. Like, have you done that before, Flora?
No.
It's like you put a paper on your head and it's like you're supposed to draw a snowman, and so then you try to draw a snowman and then
Oh, I love it. That's a whole nother level up there. Wow, yeah.
Right?
But yeah, you know, the continue, I mean, you could draw each other's faces that way. Like that would be super fun. And it's just like, no one's looks great. It's all just funky, you know? And so it's like even playing field. It's awesome. Yeah. And I already talked about closing your eyes to a song. So, you know, those are just like a few ideas. I could kind of ramble on forever about this stuff, but you know, coming back, I had on my sheet, you know, you could incorporate some kind of spa night aspect too, like I bring in my massage therapist on the last day of the workshop, and people get massages. Like, you know, you could have whatever, you could do foot soaks, like there's so many kind of DIY fun, like little self-care things that could be just another layer. I just had that on my notes to add that in. So yeah, it's just a creative process in and of itself, you know, to create whatever would feel, I think the way to look at it is just to think like, what would you like to do? Like what, if you got this invitation, what would feel really good to you? Because chances are like it would be exciting for the people that you know too. So I just think we can really go beyond the like drinking wine and all painting the same painting. Not to say that's not great too, but you know, that's like, I love, you know, it's funny to me that that's so popular now, that this thing, you know, it just shows me that people want to create. They really want to create. And, you know, that's a very safe environment. There's alcohol and someone's telling you exactly what to do. I think we can go beyond that. You know, I think we can actually like create. Is that okay that
I am dying because I was just talking to one of my clients about this. She's like, do I have to call it paint and like sip? Is that what I have to call it to get people to come to my
right? No, hopefully not. Or just call it that and then do something totally else.
Yeah. Well, you know, and then it's the different levels of safety too, which I think that you just brought up is like that there's, like, I remember when I first started creating, it was so scary to me that like, yeah, if that would make me feel safe. Okay, I'm drinking alcohol and like we're all paying the same thing. Like I can't screw this up, right? So there's something, but I feel like there's a journey as creative beings, as women, that we can step into our next level. We're talking about being woman unleashed. Like what is that for you? Like what do you want to create? Like how can you make something that feels yummy for you? Whether that's saying, all right, girlfriend, come over, we're going to watch the next Woman Unleashed like retreat video together, or whether it's like, okay, let's go, you know, do some Flora Bowley style painting, flip my canvas, you know, you paint it, I'll paint it, go back and forth, you know, and play in that way too.
Yeah, and I think being really clear in your invitation that there's no, you know, this is for whatever, depending on what you're doing, like just to make people really know that they don't need to be an artist or have experience to come. You know, I think that's huge. And you might even like speak to that in some way, like this is perfect if you've never done art before or whatever like that, you know, and yeah, and just make sure you have the right materials there. I guess I never mentioned that, but that's a piece, or have people bring their own, you know, so.
Yeah. One thing, just a side note, is if you are doing something that's like you have more than just you and your friend or a couple friends, I like to have helpers. Like that just really helps take the energy and the pressure off, is to have just a friend who's like your Vanna White, who like comes, sets everything up and welcomes people when they come in. Like that's just an extra person. Absolutely. So that you can hold the space in the container and then have someone else just like taking care of whatever logistical things too.
So good. And there's, you know, you can probably even just have someone do that for like a trade, or, you know, it's like you can, yeah, I definitely am all about the helpers.
We love the helpers. Lauren, this has been awesome. I love this. So women, we would love for you to share in the group. One, if you were to create something, what would it be? Like post in the group, like if you were to create a magical like night, what would that be? And this is like your I'm double dog daring you to, if you feel called, yeah, let's preface it this, yeah, to post when you're going to do it. Yeah.
Get accountable.
Yeah, get accountable, girl. And if you want to pay me money, you can totally do that. If you don't do it, you can write me a check, payable to Amber. I will take your money if you decide not to do it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So now, Flora, I know that you have something for our ladies too that you, which is actually really cool. Your free gift that would be something really cool that they could also use if they were going to do some sort of, you know, creative night or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So I have a series of videos. I call it Your Creative Kickstart. And it's like one video from each of my online courses. And so it's like a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, you guys are going to have the link to receive that, and hopefully you'll get even more ideas.
Yeah, so you can just click the link below here and find that. Check it out. Try some different art yourself. See what you enjoy doing, and then be like, or you can like sign up for it and then invite your friend over and do it together. You know, so there's so many fun ways to do this and make your art making creativity. You're opening up something where you're doing it with other people. Yeah,
I'm super excited to hear what people dream up, even if it's like a little beyond the reality of what you could do. Like I think just dreaming into it is the way to get the ball rolling, and then you can always scale it to work.
I love it. Yes. Everyone throw your ideas out there, because then I will love your ideas and I'll be like, that's a great idea. I think I want to add that into. Awesome. I love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Flora. I loved this conversation. I love, like, ladies, I'd love to see, here's all my notes from our thing. my things, but would love to just see what you're going to create, what you feel inspired to do. And thank you so much, Flora. Enjoy this conversation.
Oh yes, it was a pleasure. And I would say that if anyone feels nervous about doing it, then you really should do it. My final words.
Final words from Flora. Yeah. I know. And then Flora, you and I, we have to hang out and we have to do something in person, because that will be really fun.
That would be fun.
I know. All right. All right, ladies. Well, we'll see you in our next session. Big aloha.